Welcome to the Working Without Waste podcast, powered by ERC Midwest, the podcast that's all about sharing ideas and stories that increase your productivity and decrease waste in your business and personal life. I'm your host, Mike Malatesta, one of the leaders here at ERC Midwest. And so now I want to welcome today's guest. I have Sande Golgart, the president of ZONEZ, which is spelled Z-O-N-E-Z. ZONEZ is a division of Allied Modular Building Systems. And, well, first of all, Sande, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
So before I get into asking Sande anything, I just want to let you know that we're going to be talking about employee safety today. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about how to improve the safety of the one thing that we all share in the workplace, which is our air. COVID-19 has made air, the air that we breathe and what's exposed to us in the air that we breathe, the hottest topic of maybe the century. I don't know. Or maybe the last 100 years, since we're in sort of a new century. But it's a very, very challenging issue for all of us. And you're going to like what Sande's doing because it's something that can make a big difference for you and for your employees and for the overall health of your workplace. I was introduced to Sande through a mutual friend who said, "Hey, you need to check this out." And I got together on a Zoom call like this with him a couple of weeks ago. And this was what he's doing is something I had never seen before. And I was so blown away with it that I immediately ordered 10 units, so that we could put them to work in our office spaces. Because what we had been doing, which a lot of you have probably been doing, and we'll talk about the things that most people are doing, might not be enough. And it might not be the right thing. And it might not be the most effective thing. So with all of that very long introduction, I now want to turn to Sande and say, Sande, tell us about you and about ZONEZ.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, you did a really great intro there. I'm not sure how much I can add to it, but I'll give it my best shot.
Sure.
So my name's Sande Golgart. I'm the president of ZONEZ. ZONEZ is a primary business. We have spent the last several years creating and manufacturing freestanding suites. So in this world of open office space, we provide the world with prefabricated modular suites that make it really easy for you as an employer to give your people access to exactly the right space that people need on a shared basis to do the job that they need to do when they need to do it. And that has been a wonderful model. We have individual phone booths, conversation or interview suites, collaboration rooms. But again, different from traditional construction, these allow people to modify their space and make it exactly what they need for the time in which they need it. And so we install in just a couple of hours. It's clean, it's disruption-free, or as disruption-free as it can be, with no mess and incredibly little amount of waste, and something companies can take with them to their next space. As COVID-19 hit, we were challenged and faced with addressing what was our biggest strength, and that this was so easy to implement, so easy for companies to use. It became our biggest weakness during COVID, because with nobody coming into the office, no more need to divide people and add additional rooms, we knew intuitively that this was going to be something companies to kick down the road when we enter a world like we are in right now, where companies are really limited to only essential spending. So we launched a massive campaign towards research to find out where were companies going to need to be met. How could we use our experience to really tap into those needs, help companies face their biggest challenges? And the thing that we came across that struck a chord with us, and it strikes a chord with all of our customers, is exactly what you mentioned, that air is among the most shared resource of any particular floor or any office space. And you need to address through any number of different methods a way to block and separate people, but most importantly, treating the air. The thing that makes our unique solution so incredible and also obviously so unique, we're the only company that provides that solution that blocks and filters the air so that, and it does it right at the source. So this is a really key critical point. If you try and address the problem through HVAC or through traditional means, it may do a great job treating the air when you leave. However, while people are on the floor, you are sharing that air until it can reach your HVAC system, which could be a couple of hours. And in a case like COVID-19, where aerosolized, it lives for 3 hours, that may not be enough, and that may be far too much exposure for your people. So our solution addresses this very difficult and important need right at the source, where air is coughed, exhaled, or sneezed into the environment at the individual's workstation. And it provides all of the air exchanges and everything else that's needed and recommended by the CDC and other, authorities. And it helps companies create the most effective plan for helping to get back to work, which from our research shows the majority of companies truly want to get back to work. They want to be productive. Not everybody is equipped to work their best from home. So this provides them a way forward, a way to create a plan of action. And we find from our customers, they really want more than anything the ability to create that plan of action. Being in a state where you want something, but you have no plan is probably the worst place for a business to be. So we are currently working with a number of clients to help create that plan of action, but do it in a very responsible way.
And how was the company prepared to, sort of switch direction and get the idea and the technology for the panels and the filtration units, to market so quickly? Because it seems like, phenomenal to have that kind of reaction and get something as effective out so quickly.
Yeah. What we had and what we focused on was we had a goal, we had a vision, and we had clear objectives. We wanted internally to not be forced to lay anybody off. So through our parent company and our company at ZONEZ, we wanted to make sure that our people would all stay employed, that we would do whatever it took to make it through it. And that really, truly drove us at the end of the day, because this took, as you might imagine, countless hours, late into the night, early in the morning, rapid prototyping, and incredible problem solving. What we did know is that the idea that we had and the concept we had continued to get stronger and stronger, and it kept getting a more and more favorable reaction at every step. But every time we turned around, there was another problem to solve. And so we like to think of, or we refer to the panel and the clean air or Clean ZONEZ panel. It's really the result of about 300 problems solved in a very condensed period of time. So every time we threw out a new idea, every time we prototyped something new, we came up with a new set of problems that we had to solve, and we had to solve quickly. So in doing that, it led us to kind of all of the right answers. So one great example is we have engineers who have been with our parent company creating modular clean rooms, negative pressure rooms. These are literally like disease-free rooms where companies, use those environments to create, pharmaceutical solutions and other things. So we had access to people who knew a lot. When we brought them the challenge that companies were telling us, facilities managers, design people, architects, when they said that the air is the most shared resource and we need to find a way to effectively block and separate people, but also treat the air, they were the ones who pointed out to us, you really need to focus on a solution that does this at the source, because people may think incorrectly that because we have now put, for example, a UVC light up in our HVAC system, that's only doing something for the air that reaches the HVAC system right before it then gets put back into the room. So that was tremendous insight and gave us a really great start. And then as we, again, started prototyping, we could quickly come up with different things that we knew were going to be problematic. One of those things, and I think this is really important, and it does lead to, your topic on waste, which is we internally wanted to develop our own air purification system. That was originally our thought and our plan. However, given the speed and the need of our customers, we knew we didn't have time to go down that path, do a good enough job to be able to come back to have something that was fully vetted, fully tested, and would truly provide them with what we needed to provide them without any issues. So that led us to then researching and finding a partner who could lend us their expertise. So we customized and licensed the technology from a company who specializes and has specialized in air filtration for decades. And that was one of the fastest steps. That eliminated a lot of the trial and error. We knew we had something that's already been tested. It already has, all of the credibility, testing results, and that really helped us fast forward. So in our world, we had to realize what do we have that's an asset? Certainly experience with clean room technology, the engineering, but not enough for us to go and try and do something that we were not experts in. So we reached out and partnered with a group that is an expert at that. And same thing with the panels. There's a lot of things that we thought we might be able to do. And sure, if we had enough time, we probably could have, but to deliver it to the market in the time the market needed it, it really wasn't feasible. And quite honestly, it made us all better for it, because now we have quite simply the best panel on its own. It's the best panel in the market. It's 3 layers of PET material. It's sound absorbing. It's made from recycled water bottles. It's this incredible fabric-like material that's not really a fabric. You can clean it. You can keep it, decontaminized, and, you can do everything you need to do to keep that sterile. Has great sound absorbing, but they knew how to layer it with aluminum straps so that it was rigid. It could support the air filtration unit. You could pre-thread the holes so that screwing in desk clamps and things were a piece of cake. And then we knew also by partnering with them, it was going to be the highest quality of anything else that was on the market. So those things all combined really helped us meet our objectives that we set out to achieve early.
So interesting. You didn't, you were actually looking for collaborators in order to accelerate, as opposed to, wanting to keep the idea all to yourself. That's
right.
Yeah. That's a great approach. That's a really
great approach. It certainly worked for us.
You mentioned the, how the HVAC systems can do a good job cleaning the air, killing 99.9% of viruses, let's say, removing, odor from the air, mold, all of that stuff. But it takes time, because the air in the office building or the manufacturing environment, whatever, it needs to get sucked up, actually go through the unit, have some resonance time in there, and then come back and be recirculated many, many times in order for it to be maximally effective, maybe. And the interesting thing is that I think everyone, or almost everyone, has, put some type of UVC or, ionization system or something in their HVAC system to help with that. But yet they don't feel comfortable. A lot of companies still don't feel comfortable, and a lot of employees don't feel comfortable actually coming back to work. So it's like, oh, we put all this stuff in, but it must not be enough, because we're not willing to bring people back, and people really aren't ready maybe to come back, particularly if their environment is not a private office somewhere, but they're working in a shared space or a dispatch office, a trading floor, or control room, or something where it's just not practical to have these separate offices. And so how does how do the panels and the filtration unit that Zones have, how do they help improve that situation in a way that could make people more comfortable and employers more comfortable having people back?
Yeah. So I'm happy to address that. And we've done a lot of studies with HVAC smoke tests to see how air travels. So I think one of the best ways is to actually see air move. So by creating these smoke tests, you can start to see how air moves and you can see how it gets filtered. So I would invite people to visit zones.com. In the upper right-hand corner, they can select our Clean ZONEZ line of solutions. Under the More Information tab, there's some great videos. And we did a lot of testing in our different facilities with these smoke tests. So we take a smoke cartridge that they use to test HVAC systems and look for leaks and things like that. We would fill up boxes, acrylic boxes, with the smoke. We'd turn our air filtration on so you could see it absorb. We would simulate coughs in the workspace, and you could just see where that air would travel. We put acrylic screens, which a lot of people were really quick to jump on acrylic screens. But you can see with simulated cough, that cough might hit, bounce, and then the air just moves right around the acrylic screen. And then we did it with our own panels with the air filtration, and you could see because of the PET material, it, instead of bouncing off, which is the reaction you get from an acrylic screen or a solid, glass or other kind of material, it actually hits and then hugs close to the material right where the air filtration is, and then the air filtration, pulls that in or vacuums it in using two different fans, pulling it through the filter, and then, of course, releasing it after it's gone through the full filtration. Most of our customers, when they see that light bulb goes off, that, okay, now I understand. Then they might ask for additional science or data on the testing. How do I know how many of these is enough? And there's some really basic calculations that we're happy to do for customers that are standard across the industry to show people how many you might need, given the amount of space you have, where they should be positioned to give you the maximum turnover in with the air. And then also some other tips that go along with it. So once people see that, that serves as a great visual so that they can really understand, because you might hear, well, we did a bunch of things up in the ceiling, but you don't know,
Yeah, sure.
And you might not know how it works. And so you have to do a bunch of your own research. The other thing about HVAC that most people don't understand is not everybody has control over their HVAC. A lot of times that's owned by your building. It's owned by your building management company, and you don't have control. So we do put the control in the employer's hands. So even if you're a 5,000, 10,000 square foot tenant, your name's not on the building. You might not have the leverage, to get your landlord to take this kind of action. You can take the action and make sure that your space is as safe as possible.
So let's talk about the nuts and bolts of taking action. You described how the panels work, and it's funny because when you were saying that, I was thinking like, okay, so your panel's like a magnet rather than a deflector. And I know that's probably not exactly right, but that's what the picture I had in my mind.
Yeah.
So it's pulling the material, but it's pulling it and keeping it the air. But I'm glad you gave us that visual because, as you mentioned, the acrylic or plexiglass or whatever is out there is so ubiquitous now, particularly at stores and restaurants and stuff, that you think, oh, this must work, right? Because why would everybody have all this stuff if it didn't work right? But obviously it doesn't work based on what you were saying. It may help, but it doesn't. It certainly doesn't take care of the problem at the source or the potential problem at the source. So how does, particularly the air filtration units, how do they work?
So the air filtration unit is it's embedded into the panel. So there's a water cutout. Our system is uniquely designed to not have much in the way of depth, so it can sit in a panel, be flush to the panel. You have two fans that are constantly pulling in air, and it pulls the air in through 4 layers of filtration. So there's a primary filter, there's then HEPA filtration, which is, removing 99.97% of all particles. It then hits a cold catalyst filter, and it starts, resolving formaldehyde and any kind of odor that might be in the air. Then it travels down through another separate channel that is completely separate from the filter, and that's the UVC light. And we designed it so that the air that's flowing through it has the maximum amount of time in that channel so that the UVC light can start to inactivate viruses. It doesn't kill viruses like it does bacteria, but it starts to inactivate those cells. And so the more you can inactivate those cells, the less likely any of them are to infect people. And you have to breathe in a couple thousand particles, to actually contract something like COVID. So the more that you can do that, the safer you're making that environment for everybody else. The other nice thing about the panel itself is, if I'm somebody who happens to have COVID, and there's a lot of people without symptoms, so you may not even know it,
right.
You know that the panel is blocking and then protecting the air. The other thing is that if you're the person next to that, you also have your own air filtration, right? So the air that you're breathing is also being recycled. So it's not only helping with the air I'm exhaling, it's cleaning the air that I also am inhaling. So you get 2 different layers of that kind of protection, which really helps. And I had my own personal experience with this, completely unplanned, but very fortunate for myself and for my family. Both of my boys returned from, one had just graduated from the University of San Diego, the other is a junior at University of Arizona. They both came back this summer to spend time with us during the lockdown. Both contracted COVID. My older son had his girlfriend with him. She too contracted COVID. So my wife and I were living in the house, 14 days of quarantine with 3 people who had it. And all we had were these air filtration units. So we did the best that we could to position them appropriately. I still had to work every day. And so in using the panel and the different air filtration devices, my wife and I were both able to stay COVID free while interacting with them, constantly throughout the 14 days.
Huh, that's remarkable. And I think when I talked to you the first time, you actually sort of used yours in a mobile fashion too, right? Where you would move it from room to room with you, or maybe in the car or whatever, right?
Yeah. So when we launched the panel, we got a tremendous amount of feedback from everybody saying these panels are amazing, they're great. But the one bit of feedback we got that we had to pay attention to was a lot of companies have already got acrylic panels, or they've invested a lot of money into other solutions. So they said, can we use the unit as a standalone unit or something that can hang on existing panels? So we created a hanging solution, another wall mount solution, and just the freestanding unit. So you can get, for whatever your budget allows and or the need, you can get whatever works for you. So I have a couple of portable units. I take them with me when I'm traveling. I've plugged them in, on the airplane, and they're really great. They're fantastic solutions that make you that much more comfortable. And when I take it to the hotel, first thing I do, I put my luggage down, I plug in that unit, and it works. It works tremendously.
Huh. I love that part of it. I love the mobility part of it. The air, after it goes through the filtration, the UVC light, is it just exhausted back out into the office then after that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And what about, so the engineers that are listening, I know they're saying, well, like, how much air does it move? And what's the contact time and all of that? And I'm sure you have that type of information on your website.
We do. And to give everyone some level of comfort, and please reach out to us. We're happy to be as transparent as possible with the technology. We want to make sure that everyone's incredibly comfortable with exactly what the unit does. But for one of the largest banks in the US, they have a team of compliance people that have to look into this before they will move forward. So they introduced us to their compliance team. We spent, excuse me, 2 weeks giving them all the data, all the information, testing results, working with them so that they could fully understand. And they were thrilled by the end of that with what we had created. They were also thrilled to learn that we weren't trying to say it does more than what it's capable of.
Right.
So we weren't saying this is a miracle pill that, is going to save everybody. What it does do, it does a tremendous job for defined areas to capture exhaled, coughed, sneezed air at the point in which it's exhaled. It does the best possible job in filtering that air before it's then released, into the shared environment. And they loved that. And you read a lot of materials, and if you go online, you'll find a lot of products and solutions that make some pretty bold claims. And I would just advise people to be a little bit careful there. If for nothing else, from a risk standpoint, you don't want to put something in, the workplace that makes too strong of claims, because you then put your company also at risk. And that's a big element, unfortunately, in the world we live in.
Well, yeah, it makes me think of these some of the chemical companies that come in and spray, are saying, well, we'll spray and you've got 90 days of protection from COVID-19. And I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe if with the COVID landing on the surfaces that you sprayed, that no one's wiped anything off of since you've sprayed it. But what about the people that are breathing right next to you? I mean,
exactly.
It's just a crazy sales pitch to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's too good to be true. Otherwise, we would all have chemical people, flying over our heads, dropping that stuff on.
Yeah, right. We just spray everything.
Have it. Yeah, the whole world would be back to normal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, overnight. Yeah,
right.
Good point. I hadn't actually thought about that. That's a really good
point.
Like
crop dusters, right? Just over everybody's house.
So, what's the cost? How do you buy these units? How do you investigate further?
Yeah,
and how are they sold, I guess? Yeah.
The best way to learn more about it is to go to zonez.com, zonez.com. You can link to the Clean ZONEZ line of solutions there. We've got spec sheets. We have white papers on the science, just about any information that you need, but you can also reach out and contact us. We also have a landing page if you just want to visit cleanzonez.com, clean, Z-O-N-E-Z, one word.com. That's our Clean ZONEZ landing page. You can ask for the spec sheet there. We sell through a network of dealers across the U.S., and then we also have partnered with 2 different very large companies who are offering it to their clients, which is also a huge benefit. So if you are in a Prologis facility, you will soon have access to the product at incredible pricing. Same with IWG, the largest shared office space provider in the world. They too are taking these steps to give their clients who share space with maybe 150 other companies access to these types of safeguards to help protect them. And they can buy direct from IWG. So those two are a little bit unique. And then through our dealer network across the country and into Canada, we can align you with the right dealer to purchase. The cost is pretty inexpensive. For a standalone unit, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to the panel, which is $700, and a little north of that if you get the 5-foot wide panel. And what people may not know is the quality of PET panel that we use. If you were to just go out in the free market and look just for a panel, so again, something that's only blocking, you would pay about $700 just for the PET panel without it doing anything else. So that was the other thing that was important to us. We wanted to make it affordable. We didn't want to put it out of reach. We truly want to help as many people as we possibly can. So we priced it in a way that allows companies to be able to afford it in a variety of ways so that they can do what's right for their employees.
All right. Well, cleanzones.com for all the information. Sande Golgart, thank you so much for joining us today and for educating us on what you're doing. The remarkable, I find it remarkable what you're doing. Just a great solution that I'm all over. So I do appreciate you coming on and talking about it.
Well, Mike, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.